Hello everyone, and welcome to Week 1 of Healthcare Information Systems. This is the first lecture and it is covering healthcare data, information, and knowledge. There will be a lecture every week, but I will try to keep them brief and pertinent. This week's lecture covers Chapter 2 from our book, but I would highly recommend you read Chapters 1 and 2 prior to watching this lecture so you know all of the terms and background. I do go into a bit more depth than the book actually does, so feel free to check out my references if you want a little bit more information. Before we get started, I do want to remind everyone of the agenda for this week. It is posted in the Week 1 folder, but in case you didn't see it, we do have 2 discussion board posts, a paper, and a lecture summary due this week. I'll talk a little bit more about the lecture summary after this presentation, but all of the descriptions for the assignments are available in the Week 1 folder. Please email me as soon as possible if you have any questions or concerns. This presentation does not cover all of the information covered in the reading, but it does touch on several issues you will see in Chapter 2. The main things I do want to emphasize in this presentation are the differences between data, information, and knowledge. This is a key concept for this course, so I think it is important we clarify it right from the beginning. I'm also going to talk about applying knowledge because I feel this text is a bit technical and I want you to have a very clear understanding of the theories behind the technology. Alright, so what is the difference between data, information, and knowledge? Simply put, data is the raw form of information. Data has no filters, no application, and are not in a useful form. Basically, data are numbers, figures, or any other real-world reflection that has not been applied in a meaningful way. Information, on the other hand, is data that is meaningful and has a useful application. A birth date, a name, or other factors that help us identify a patient are all data that is useful, making them information. Knowledge is applied information. Knowledge is the real, practical application of information to make statements which are justifiably true. For instance, if I said, overexposure to UV rays can potentially result in burned skin, I can justifiably state this as a true fact because I am applying the information that supports this conclusion. There is another level we could address wisdom, but for right now we're just going to focus on the first 3. It is important to note that we, as health professionals, want knowledge, not just information. There's a lot of information out there we could analyze, but for the most part, it's not really useful. We need useful, applicable information to help us make quality decisions. Everything else, honestly, is just a waste of time, and probably a waste of a lot of money. Once we've decided what information is useful, we need to convert it into actionable knowledge. In regards to health information technology, the way we do that is through clinical data warehouses. Clinical data warehouses compile data from electronic health records and stores them in a format which allows users to apply analytic controls. CDWs are essentially searchable databases. Kind of like the Dietz library, CDWs allow the user to search for relevant information. So instead of searching for journal articles about health economics, you might search for all female patients with cervical cancer. CDWs also allow you to control the specifics of the information you are retrieving and add additional controls. So you might search for all female patients under the age of 30 with cervical cancer. As with all technology, CDWs face a lot of challenges. The text discusses these issues more in depth, but ultimately it comes down to the fact that medicine is not as absolute as we might like it to be. There is not a one-size-fits-all answer for a lot of questions, and not every diagnosis fits neatly into one category. People are complicated, inconsistent, and often pretty contradictory, and that makes health information technology an imperfect tool. So, even though there are a lot of issues with getting it, there is a lot of knowledge out there. Once we've identified useful, applicable knowledge, we have to decide what we're going to do with it. What we do with knowledge is called knowledge transition. Now, this is not a topic really covered in the text, but it is an applicable theory, and I think this is a great definition. Knowledge translation is the application of knowledge within the healthcare field in order to effect change resulting in better health outcomes. In layman terms, this is simply using what we know to make decisions in healthcare. This is the ultimate purpose of health knowledge. There are three key ways we can apply health knowledge. We can use it to impact our behaviors, policy, and our practices. When we discuss impacting health behaviors, we generally are referring to consumers making better, more informed medical and lifestyle choices. Policy refers to health administrators implementing specific strategies, initiatives, regulations, or guidelines that are proven to improve health or health outcomes in a specific population. And practice applies to clinicians integrating evidence-based clinical practices in order to improve patient-specific outcomes. It is important to note that health translation does not only occur at a clinical level. Health administrators and consumers, like patients and family members, also apply health knowledge. The last thing I want to mention is sort of a hard truth. Not all knowledge is going to be implemented, even if it is correct. Health administrators have to make decisions based on what will effect the most change with limited resources. For example, if you are running a medical clinic in rural East Africa, and you know that the population you serve has both a high incidence of stomach parasites and an increased risk of eye disease due to lack of proper eye protection, you might choose not to give everyone a pair of sunglasses because it is more important you spend that money on a water purification system that will provide clean water to the entire community and nearly eliminate the epidemic of drinking water related parasites. This might seem like a no-brainer, but it is a perfect example of choosing not to implement change even though you have factual evidence of an intervention that could improve health outcomes. Alright, so that's all I have for this week, and I hope it provides a bit more theory and practical application to supplement the technical language of the text. If you have any questions about what I've discussed in this presentation, email me as soon as possible, and preferably before you write your summary for this week. Here are a few guidelines about the summary you're submitting. The main thing I want you to focus on is telling me what you learned in your own words. You don't have to cite anything, and you don't need to do any outside research. Also, please don't quote me. I know what I said, and I was boring enough the first time. Also, don't copy and paste, or I will be extremely cranky, and you probably won't get full credit. Otherwise, just don't get too worked about format or style, use good grammar, and tell me what the presentation was about. I hope you all have a great week, and please contact me with any questions or concerns.